Already done
Who's
it.
in the red hood in the thumbnail?
That's
Red
something from Divinity Original Sin, apparently. I just looked for female
Mm.
Divinity Original Sin character.
Okay. Yeah, that
Because I know
yeah.
how thumbnail games work on YouTube.
That's one I haven't played yet either.
That was the one I think you said, wasn't it? Or was that someone else?
No, mine was Deus
We're
Ex.
live now.
Okay. Excellent.
There we go. That was a weird cacophony of double echo.
Way better than triple echo.
And quite frankly, don't say that out loud. That might turn into the next like Vin Diesel movie. We don't need any more of those.
I don't really have an issue with them. They're just sort of there.
I do. I have an issue with Vin Diesel in general, just because I feel like, if you're gonna take your shot at fame, why is like the thing that you're gonna be known for as having having permanent congestion? Like all you have to do a Vin Diesel like impression is just hold your nose.
And live your life a quarter mile at a time.
I mean, that sounds so exhausting though. Like I live my life a quarter foot at a time.
Oh, I should probably
like
send out
going
alerts
places.
that we're live.
I mean, if you want people to show up, sure. But I mean, if you don't want people to show up, then we can continue to talk about how Lunarsar is a city in Connecticut. That reminds me, I have to see if the bagel place down the street is finally open so I can rob them of their bagels.
By paying the money.
Debatable.
By paying
If
the
I have to.
money.
If I have to, sure.
You're on a recorded line currently.
For quality purposes.
Yeah, for quality purposes.
And training.
I think it.
We're trying to make you a quality person and train you. This is for quality purposes and training.
I'm trying to think. Do you have the volume too high on that Mario playing in the background?
As I said, you just need to mute it because it's literally not there for anything but background. We won't be discussing it. They can't hear it at all because I have it muted on my computer.
So how are you hearing it?
Oh, I thought I was hearing it through. I thought I heard it when it was on YouTube.
Together.
Yeah, okay.
He thought he was hearing it through the power of friendship.
Oh yeah,
That's
I
how
don't
that
have
works,
works
right?
Up.
He said we don't need it today.
Yeah,
I didn't think we would.
I can't really think. So I'm just going to, as we move through games, I'm just going to find different playthroughs and use them.
I mean,
Sort of
quite
background.
frankly, the only thing we need watch through is if we wanted to like instead of like do games, we could just put like a live feed of Baggins smoking something.
Nope.
Like in his smoker.
Oh, okay.
Not you smoking something. Like you in the smoker smoking something, and you don't actually have to be in frame. It would just be a live shot of the smoker smoking something.
I don't know. I kind of pictured Baggins with the pipe sitting next to Gandalf, but
So
Wrong
this
Baggins,
is I did this. Someone was bringing up tone armor. This is a Overly Sarcastic Productions video, and she points out that just as there's
I love
plot
that
armor,
YouTube channel.
they're great. But
Yes, they
just as there's plot armor, there's tone armor, where when things are following a certain tone, certain things will or won't happen. And so when you break that tone and you lose the tone armor, it changes things. A great example being end of season 2 of Avatar, which has been, it sometimes got serious, but it's still a fairly friendly tone and pretty easy to watch, right? And then it feels like it's building up to something, and then they break it, and suddenly things feel more vulnerable as a result. But it also works in other ways. One of the ways they point out is the Lord of the Rings series they're all PG-13 movies due to just, the violence that is there. It's portraying war. Because it's PG-13, technically, each of those films could have an F-bomb in them and it'd be okay from a rating system. And it's like, so the fun is to figure out where would you put the F-bomb? And no matter where you put it, it becomes hilarious because it breaks the tone. And if they ever did it, it would actually ruin everything because the tone would be broken. But it would be hilarious. And the game is fun. Anything with Gollum dropping an F-bomb is instantly funny.
I agree. By the way, I've come up with a few more from my backlog list.
Oh, we'll just come up naturally.
Okay.
So
just keep it in mind.
yeah, we'll be free form. And I need to apologize. Last time I completely lost track of time, and I'm going to be trying to keep a closer look on that. I want this to max out at like 2 hours at the longest if things are like really cooking. So if you ever think that we're starting to edge somewhere and you think I might have lost track of time because I'm enjoying the conversation too much, feel free to just send me a message in Discord and I'll take a look.
Or just start berating you publicly.
Yes, it's not necessary, so let's not do that.
Not necessary, but enjoyable.
Are we actually going to be cooking? Hold on. This is important because
You're the one who asked Baggins to smoke stuff.
Well, look, I have said quite often that I think a spliced cooking show would do quite well.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I think that that everyone would enjoy us cooking splice.
We could call it Fire and Splice.
See, you're already on it. We've got the branding halfway there.
I think I personally want Baggins to be the chef, though.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, I don't have to.
So then we call it Firing Splice.
Oh, yeah, I see. You're right there. I dig it.
All right. Well, we are ready to go. I just need to get one last alert out.
Herbs and Splices?
Ooh, yes. I like the synergy. I like the way this is all going. Very nice. Very nice.
Sugar and spice.
You see so much good stuff here. So much good stuff.
The Splice Cabinet.
Yes.
Thank you for not going for Splice Rack, because I'm already self-conscious enough about my weight gain.
No. That's what we're called. That's us on the people on this show. We are the Splice Cabinet. As in the cabinet.
Yeah.
As in your group of ministers.
Can I be the minister of commie? Because I feel like commie is like...
Communism?
Yeah, communism. God bless Comerica.
All right, I'm ready to go. So everyone, get quiet. You'll know when to start. So the whole idea behind this podcast is we're all getting older as gamers. Hence the whole thing about us overleveled. One of my backlog sins that I have, you're seeing currently, is Super Mario Odyssey. I started playing it, but I started getting motion sick. I used to always make fun of my dad because he'd get motion sick playing like Doom. Unfortunately, I'm now in that spot, and so Mario Odyssey is sitting only at like 10 hours played, even though it's a great game because I'm old. So, who wants to admit their sins in the backlog first?
I'm trying to decide if I should chime in first or hold mine off till later because mine go deep.
Well, we can just start with one.
Well, problem if we're just talking about one, my probably biggest one, which apparently I'm already being berated for by this group, is Earthbound.
It does seem odd, just that does seem right up your alley.
It does, and it was one that when it first came out, I was intrigued, but just never got a hold of it. I was never a big fan. Like, it's got a very weird aesthetic style and humor to it that just never appealed to me as a kid. But it's one that, looking back, I really should get to to the screen.
Well, I mean, to be fair, critics back in the day didn't like the art style at all, and it got terrible reviews, but I loved it.
Well, it's a very artsy game.
See, I can't use that as my excuse, though, because I remember I found out about it through Nintendo Power, and they gushed over it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Nintendo Power is why I bought it when it was brand new and played it to death and loved it. I mean, the Epic Center of Nintendo Power was, I probably, whatever they told me, I probably believed blindly as a kid. But to be fair, they were right most of the time, not every time. Spike McFang, not so much. But for the most part, yeah, I really enjoyed what they recommended.
Can I admit something to you guys?
You don't know what Earthbound is?
Oh, I know what it is.
Okay.
But I didn't know what it was until about 5 years ago.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
I mean,
Hey,
I
a
didn't
lot of
know
people-
what Earthbound was until Smash Bros.
That's exactly what I was about to say. A lot of people had never even heard of it. They're like, Ness, who's Ness? And I'm like, how do you not know who Ness is?
And honestly, a lot of people, even those who play Smash, still probably don't know what Earthbound is.
As far as I have realized, with the exception of maybe Baggins here, I think I'm the only person that knew who Ness was when they first unlocked him in Smash.
Honestly, I didn't remember. Like, it was one of those, it took me a second, and I was just like, wait, that's not the kid from Earthbound, is it? But I had to think about it for a while. So it wasn't
I at
just
first
an
thought it was the
instant.
kid from Star Tropics because that was the only game I knew of that had someone with a yo-yo.
No, that's Mike.
Though to be fair, I guess I did lend out that game to my friends, so they actually might have known, unless I lent it to them after Smash came out. I'm not sure.
It's not your job to know. But yeah, Earthbound
License
is
job to know.
Earthbound's a weird one. Yeah, I had never heard. I didn't know about Captain Falcon either.
I've got a question. So we're talking about backlogs, right?
Mm-hmm.
What qualifies something for the backlog? Because, for example, I have games that I got halfway through or even to the final boss and never beat.
Did you want to keep playing them?
Some of them, yes.
Yeah, the ones I like. It's not in your backlog if it's like I played it. I don't feel like it anymore.
Yeah, I think if you said that I'm done with this game, then
No, that's not what happened.
Yeah,
It was more that I was playing and I got to a certain point and was enjoying it, and then another game came out and
yeah,
ADHD popped up and said, "Hey,
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
yeah, that's
what I said
exactly
about Mario Odyssey, basically. Because it wasn't because the game was bad; it's because I'm old and sometimes I get
okay."
motion sick.
Well, then my list just got a whole lot longer.
Oh, geez.
That's the thing. I mean, for me, I haven't updated this website, but there's a website called the Backloggery, backloggery.com, where you can actually log all of your games and which ones you've beaten and haven't beaten, and you can mark it as null if you just like I don't want to play it anymore.
It's just a journal of different people's
Yeah.
backs.
And the thing is I have over 100 games that I have yet to finish in my backlog. And
Oh, that's cute.
I haven't updated it in like 5 years, and it's only grown since then. So for me, like my backlog is a triple digit endeavor. So yeah,
Let me go into my.
I will say, Baggins is the one who inspired this episode.
Splice is aware of my
Problem.
my Steam library.
Oh,
Well-
I haven't even put my Steam library on here.
I've got my Steam library in front of me, but
I just looked at my Steam library and yeah. Well, sorry, what are you saying? I don't want to interrupt.
well, I was going to say I'm not sure, but I think I might be the only person here today that sold his soul to a sports team for the biggest game on my backlog. So
I'm confused.
there's that. So I think I've told this story. I don't know if I told it on the podcast, so I'll tell it right now. I have not actually owned a PlayStation until the one I have right now. I either lived with somebody who had one, or I just went without. So I just didn't play anything that was PlayStation-wise, because I didn't. So a couple of years ago, 3 years ago about, my best friend, Veston, calls me up and says, hey, I just got a PlayStation 5. Like, oh, awesome for you. And I've got a PlayStation 4 Pro, so I've got an extra PlayStation 4. Do you want it? And of course, my answer was immediately, yes. And then after the fact, I said, do you want something for it? And his immediate response, without missing a beat, is, I want your dying loyalty to the Tampa Bay Rays. And I was like, okay. You know, I
Such an
don't
odd
understand
team
baseball.
to have the undying loyalty to.
It's his team because everyone else in his family loves the Yankees, and I don't know why. He settled on the Tampa Bay Rays for whatever, because his cousins actually live out there, and he's gotten to go to a bunch of those games. That's why.
To be fair, at least you didn't sell your soul for Alf Pogs.
That's true. But then,
Alf's
as an
back
afterthought,
in Pog form.
as an afterthought, the next sentence I said is, can I borrow Persona 5? Because I had been waiting for Persona 5, because I played the original Persona, and I loved it. And then my friend, who happened to be the same friend, moved in with his girlfriend with his PlayStation, and I didn't have access to a PlayStation anymore. So I couldn't play any of the ensuing ones. But I'd always followed them, and they always looked cool, and 5 just looked so cool. And then for the longest time, there was all of these rumors that, oh, it's going to be coming out for PC. Oh, it's going to be coming out for Switch. I was like, man, I wish it would come out for Switch. I could take it with me and go places. I could play Persona 5. I've got like a couple of minutes here or there. Or when I have to go into the office on lunch. And so finally, after months and months of hearing rumors that it was going to come out, all right, cool. PlayStation 5 is coming. PlayStation 4 for free, and I can play it. And I got it, and I started to play it, and I was having fun, and then Persona 4, Persona 5, Persona 3, coming out for PC and Switch on Steam. And it was just like, really? You couldn't have...
They were waiting for you.
They were waiting for me to do it. And
you're the reason they didn't come out for so long.
And so I'm about a third of the way through the game, but I've just kind of with it, because I would really rather have it like on my Steam Deck, but I don't want to have to go through all of my progress again. And apparently the only way I can transfer my progress over is either hacking my PlayStation 4, which I'm not very good at, or paying $60 for a program that will that I can hook up to the PlayStation and I can yank the file out.
That doesn't sound worth it.
Right, exactly. It's like, that's not worth it. Like first of all, I don't pay full price for games, so I just will wait until it's like I did with Persona 4. 4. I bought that a couple of weeks ago because it was $12, and that's on. And I've been playing that on my Steam Deck. So, like, for me, it was like this weird, yay, I finally get to play it. But because I had to compromise, because I never thought it was going to come out on a medium that I wanted it to come out on. And when I did, it was just like, it's not like I don't want to finish it, but I have other games which I can take with me, and I can play in places like in my bed, or up at my grandma's house if I'm going up there to help something, or if I pick up and I go to another state, like it's happened on occasion. And so it's just less convenient for me to play it. So that I've got that kind of weird thing going on with that in my backlog. Persona 5 being the biggest one.
It's a big one.
I find it quite interesting that PC is the mobile platform of choice, but hey, that's the Steam Deck for you.
It's the way things are moving now.
Hey, I'm happy.
I thought you were saying not just PC, but Linux. You seem so very pleased to.
Oh yes.
Remind me.
Yes, that's the thing. I'm very, very pleased with what they did with the Steam Deck, because that unlocked Linux as an operating system for me, because now I don't lose my games, and I can be done with Windows, and it feels glorious.
Then you don't have to give in.
Well, the other problem with that is that I make that excuse for Persona 5, but one of the other games on my backlog, which is Octopath Traveler, I have on the Switch. And I put that down years ago with the intention of going back to it and just, again, never did.
So that is,
Me too.
amusingly, that's a game I'm going through right now.
See, I want to pick it back up. And maybe this is a part of why these backlogs are. And so, since Lunasar said me too, and you're going through it right now, Baggins, and Splice probably hasn't played it because he hates the number 8.
It's an odd accusation.
No, it's even.
That's a fair
The
point. I have to relate to the logic there.
Splice can't even.
But I'm curious to know. Octopath Traveler, I picked up because it was the kind of game I played the hell out of in my teens and in my 20s.
Mm-hmm, I get that. I've lived that.
But like, I tried to play it now, and it was just like, oh, just get to the point. We just get to the point. I just want you to get to the point. Get to the point of whatever's going on. Another cutscene. Just let me do the things that I want to do.
See, that's not my experience.
I mean, it wasn't at first, but that kind of, and I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it was just like, it was, how do I put this? It was kind of like fatigue almost. Like, I love getting long games because I feel like you get your money worth, but for some reason, like, I just lost the thread halfway through.
Okay, let's talk about that because that is something that I've been experiencing too, and I think this is just getting older because there were.
Yeah.
So when I was younger, I used to love a game that I could, it was like, I remember when I got FF6, the big thing was like, there's over 80 hours of gameplay in this. And that was like a huge thing, like story gameplay, which, if you go and you do all of the side quests and grind everything out and everything, yes, you can get that. And I just remember thinking that is the best thing in the world. And I learned when that actually became less appealing to me. And it's when not when I suddenly, but when I finally had enough disposable income to buy whatever games I wanted. Because like when FF6 came out, that was a game that I, saved up for, and I mowed my parents' lawn extra. Like I just did extra stuff around the house. I'm the youngest of 7 kids, so I had older siblings who were doing a lot of the chores. But like I was taking over jobs so that I could earn extra money, so I could buy this game. And now it's just it's weird. I actually can afford to buy a game if I want it. And because of that, suddenly my backlog just expands rapidly.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly.
Like,
that's my experience too.
I first noticed this in college, and college isn't necessarily where you have a bunch of extra spending money, but just having any spending money.
Fair, but I find that's part of it. But there's another big part of it. To whereas when I was younger, I could do these longer games, to where I'm older now. It may be something that maybe more speaks to Lizzie and Lunasar in this as well, that I find now, as I have less free time because of commitments to work, family, other kinds of things, like these longer games, like, man, like, I love these games in my youth, but man, you're taking up a lot of time here, and there's a lot of the other games that I want to get out there and play.
Oh, absolutely.
So that plays into it as well. Like, I'm pulling away at Octopath Traveler, and I'm looking over at Cyberpunk 2077. It's like, sup? How you doing?
Well, I mean, it was frustrating for me, like, just to get through some of these games as an adult with, a family. Like, I had coworkers that would get on my case of like, oh, have you finished Persona 5 yet? I'm like, no. I got further, but I haven't beaten it yet. Are you kidding me? Like, it's like it took me, a year and a half to go through that game, and I had coworkers that wanted to talk about the ending, and I'm like, I haven't gotten there yet.
Well, and that's especially because that is not a game you can play with kids around.
Oh, no, absolutely not. And so,
and that's an interesting question to get into to the two parents here. Like, do you find that your backlog is partially there because you have games that you can't play in front of your kids? I know my friends who have kids, just had a kid a couple of weeks ago. Like, there's a whole, this game cannot be played until after 8 o'clock because that's when Princess Gogurt goes to bed.
Well, and like that's not even exclusive to like some of the more modern graphic
I'm
games
sorry,
because
are we just glossing over Princess Gogurt?
Go Gurgira, that's her name.
Gesundheit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry,
No.
I felt like we just completely glossed over that.
I don't understand what the problem is.
I don't know
Are you
either.
gonna
Like
see-
she's Princess
No.
Gogira. Like,
But like what I'm saying though is, for example, I would Looney, I was talking to you recently about Octopath Traveler, and you mentioned that's one of the reasons that you're not playing, because it's one that's, even though it's a pixelized game and it's
Oh yeah,
classic
'cause-
RPG, it's not necessarily one you want to play with your kids because it goes into some dark themes.
Yeah, it goes into some really dark themes, and yeah, especially around my oldest. If he sees a game that interests him, he'll really want to play it. And I'm just like, it's like Octopath Traveler. It's like it goes into some dark themes that's like he's getting close to that age. I mean, yes, I know like PG-13, but it's like really there's a gradient between PG-13 and mature,
Uh-huh.
And I just the instant he turns 13 is not like I don't know if I want him quite hitting this heavy of a theme yet, and so like Octopath Traveler is one that I wouldn't want him to notice me playing and be like, ooh, I want to play it.
And the thing is, that's not to disparage the game at all, because the storytelling is actually impressive for a game that's told in this medium. It's
phenomenal.
some excellent storytelling, and it goes into some very, again, dark places, but and so it's just like, do you like you said, your oldest is in a very interesting range because he's old enough to start understanding some of these things, but not quite old enough to start fully appreciating them,
Yeah, like fully grasping it. I mean, it's kind of like, I mentioned this, to one of my son's teachers today. It's like, they had me read, Crime and Punishment when I was like a freshman in high school, which is like, at that age, it's like, yeah, that book does nothing for me at that age. If I read it now, I'd probably think it's a masterpiece. But as a high schooler, I'm like, man, this is a big, long, boring book. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Yeah, totally.
Now, I'll agree with you to a point on that, because there are certain things that I didn't appreciate when I read them. But then later, as I got older, I did appreciate having read them.
Sure.
So it's like you don't necessarily get it and fully appreciate it even at the time you read it. But there are books that I read when I was much younger that I didn't fully appreciate and get, that looking back, I'm still able to appreciate even in retrospect.
Sure. Yeah.
So
I just don't think that was one for me. But, well, granted, the other problem I've also found, and is a big part of the reason why my backloggery has grown from having kids, is not necessarily just is it appropriate for them. Sometimes even it is, it's frustrating because I can't stand backseat gaming.
Uh-huh.
And if
are
I'm
you
trying to
saying
play a game
kids
in
aren't
my
good
kid-
at that?
And oh my gosh, dude.
Well, I'd say even beyond that, because you have kids, you're fighting for screen time.
Yeah, well, this has resulted in us, getting a separate TV and a separate Switch. I got sick of fighting over the Switch with the kids, so, I have my own Switch because I use
You're like,
reward
wait,
points
I
from
could
work.
solve this problem with money.
And then when Lizzie saw me having my own Switch and how that alleviated a lot of screen time contention as well, she decided to buy her own, and she plays it in handheld mode most of the time. And but yeah, no, competing for even now, if I am playing a game, even if it's not the screen or the system I'm competing for, the actual physical copy of the game I have to compete for. And well, another one was I was playing Dragon Quest XI. The problem is I want to enjoy it, my playthrough, organically and experience it as presented. My son sees me playing it. Ooh, I want to play that game. Well, he's got all the free time in the world, and
then
so
he goes
he'll start
spoiler
playing it.
worlds on you.
And he goes, "Spoiler of Worlds" on me, and then I'm
yeah.
like, I'm just furious at him, and I
You're
don't
like,
even want to play the
I may be
game.
your father, but I really don't like you right now.
And yeah. And the thing is he loves to like. I take my time, to be a completionist because like Baggins, I only got like 1 or 2 games a year. It's like I either had to save up money for it or ask it for birthday or for Christmas. Like that was it. And so I tried to relish every game and find everything I can about it. Whereas my son, he grows up and says, "Wow, my video game library's in the triple digits. I need to experience as much as possible," so he just cruises as fast as you can through them.
I think we also introduced our kids to games done quick a little too young because they just want to speed run.
Well, yeah, that too. So he loves to speed run, and the fact that there's so many games that he will actually go through my backlog faster than I ever could. But the thing is like if there's a game I want to enjoy, but if he sees me playing it and he wants to play it, then he's going to chug it. Whereas you're
gonna sip it with a nice symphony on.
Yeah,
in the
exactly. It's like I opened up some one of those bottles of Martinelli's apple cider, and I'm taking nice little sips at a time and really enjoying it. And if he grabs that bottle, he'll just chug the whole thing as fast as he can.
Okay, I have 2 questions related to this playthrough. So Lizzie, you said Lizzie is now playing more in handheld mode as a result. Are there any games that are now in your backlog because you just don't enjoy them in handheld mode?
Oh gosh.
Lizzie?
None that I can think of in particular, actually. There are even some games that are better handheld, such as the Let's Go games for Pokemon, because with those, you don't have to use motion controls. So I actually do prefer doing handheld most of the time, although sometimes I enjoy docking, because I have a dock now for my computer, and so I'll just play it on my computer if I need a bigger screen. But that's usually just for hard to see shiny hunting.
Okay, and then the other part, you said kids are bad at backseat gaming. I am so curious. I have to know. Can I hear an example where you just wanted to like shut up?
Well, usually they're just so excited to, "Ooh, this is so interesting. Go do this, and it's like we're trying to talk to the townspeople and get a feel for the characters and the story, and we're not trying to just rush. And so it's like you'll have an NPC say, "Oh, you need to do this next," and they sit there and bug you like, "Go do it, go do it, go do it."
So I wish we had Petrivka here because we had our sophomore year, we were rooming with the Harris brothers, whom I love, but one in particular was trying to be more responsible, so he was trying to play less video games, which meant that he was actually trying to get secondary gaming highs off of us because he just wants to game. And so what would happen is Gordon would be playing Oblivion and he's like trying to watch him. He's like, and Gordon would purposely start just jumping around pillars and just to get him to go away. Be like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm leveling up my jumping stats because that's a thing that happens in Oblivion."
That's a thing.
And so he'd just do it until he'd get bored and go away, and then he'd go back to playing the game.
Follow-up question. You went to college with former WCW tag team champions Ron and Don Harris?
No.
Yes. They were our roommates.
That explains so much about Splice, actually. So, anyway, you may continue unhindered.
Okay. But yeah. All right. So we've covered games that we sort of bounced off for one reason or another that weren't like, we didn't hate it. It was just like, wasn't what I'm looking for. Like me for right now, I've been...
The first time we encountered it, it didn't lead to completion.
Yeah. I think the biggest offender, though, in cause of backlogs is the Steam sale.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, and the thing that made that even worse is, I think Tommy's I was going to say it.
The Humble Bundle.
Humble Bundle.
It is because of those two things specifically that my my Steam library is now at I think I'm like 3 away from 700 games.
Well, I
guys-
just calculated mine. Mine's like 340 something.
A couple of weeks ago, and I was proud of myself because I resisted it. The entire Capcom arcade parts 1 and 2 were on sale for like $12, and there were a
Oh.
couple
I bought
of
it.
others.
I bought it.
You
I
know what I'm
did
talking
too.
about. And
I bought
that-
it.
And how many games was that total? It was an obnoxious number. And I
Well,
was
it
like,
said 70, but it was really only 3 games actually.
But it was like collections.
Yeah, it was collections.
yeah, like it's 3 games with collections. But
So if I could get all of you to pull
Well,
up
the
your
thing
Steam-
is I haven't even redeemed all my Humble Bundle keys, if I'm honest. So it's like I have even more than I actually know of. And the worst offenders are when I buy a Humble Bundle or something on Steam sale, not realizing that I'd already bought it on the other.
Mhm.
So it's like I have like a case where I bought a Humble Bundle and I go to redeem the key and realize, oh wait, I already bought it on a Steam sale and I didn't even realize. No. I had a Humble Bundle key, forgot I had it, never redeemed it, and then bought it during a Steam sale, which is like the worst you can
Okay.
do. But
I want everyone to open up their Steam library right now and just
Well,
sort of
already
scroll
open.
through, and I want you to find the game that you look at it and I don't. It has to be not part of a bundle. It has to be like you specifically bought one game, and you just look at it and you're like, "Why did I bother buying it?" Because the one for me that I still can't believe I bought,
gosh.
and I remember the Steam sale I got it, Gary's Mod, because it was on sale for $1, and I'm like,
I'm with you there.
I think I bought that one for $1 too. Yeah.
so there's that, and then I don't even know what this game is. Data Jammers Fast Forward.
I mean, obviously, it's a game where you jam to data and you go forward pretty quickly. I mean, that seems self-explanatory.
Yeah. Also, Natural
was just scrolling-
Selection.
I was just scrolling through as you said that, and I came across a game that I didn't even know I had. And it's one that was like actually looking at that might be fun. It's called Automa Chef. I think it's just sort of one of those, cooking restaurant simulator things. I'm just like, all right, why not?
When did I get World of Goo?
Actually,
I may
I've
have
got a
given you
really
that
good
years
one.
ago.
Could have been.
See,
I've got a
did
really good
buy
one.
Gyromancer, but I did put at least 6 hours into that. It was a
something.
good bedazzled
So-
game.
This
Not
wasn't
bedazzled.
in a sale, but I bought a
Cool,
game called
that's the word.
Cloudpunk.
Cloudpunk.
Yeah, I was in between games. This was post Cyberpunk, and I was looking at the time. I just recently forgotten my Steam Deck, and I was looking for things that were compatible with it. Because while certain things are quote unquote compatible, like Cyberpunk and Baldur's Gate 3 and all that stuff,
In
it's
theory.
compatible as long as it's compatible if you play around with the settings with it, and it's a perfectly fine experience to take on the road. It really is. For being portable, I'm not going to complain. But I was looking for something to play on it that was, pretty. That was going to be like a little bit more forgiving for it. And I was kind of in a cyberpunky mood, and so I was looking at some stuff, and this was on sale, and I was like, oh. Read the description. You're like a courier in like a city that's like, in a cyberpunk setting. I'm like, oh, this looks great. And literally, I thought it was interesting. I purchased it. It was on sale. Put my Steam Deck aside, and I start chatting with people. And I'm in this chat with my Friday Night D&D group, and somebody says, like, oh, yeah, like, I'm sorry, I haven't been responding. I just played Vampire Saviors and just lost track of time. It's like, what's
Survivors.
Vampires? Yeah, Survivors. That's sorry. I'm thinking back to my Darkstalker roots. And he's like, I'm playing Vampire Survivors, and I just lost track of time. It's like, what do you mean? It's like, oh, it's a little roguelite, and you just really just need to do it with one hand, and like, it's on sale right now for like $1.99.
Splice has a
Like-
problem.
I just got done completing it today, actually.
Wait,
Yeah, and so I got that, and I just never touched Cloudpunk. It still remains untouched because Vampire Survivors came into my life.
That has happened
minutes
to me
after I bought
so many times. That happened to me. I don't know how many times. Okay. I'm going to say something, and this is probably going to put Looney onto a bit of a tangent with this as well, because you and I have stuff we could talk about regarding this for a while. But Final Fantasy V, that was a game that was on my backlog for probably about 20 years. And a few months ago, I finally was just like, what would happen is I would start playing it, and then something would come out. And so I'd stop, and then I'd come back to it, and I've forgotten everything that happened. So I go back to the beginning, start playing it, something else comes out. So finally, I think it might have been about a year ago, I was just like, I am going to beat this game, to the point where a game that I had been waiting for actually did come out, and I just said, no, I am beating this. I am done. I am getting this one out of my backlog. I think that was when it was either Chained Echoes or Sea of Stars. It was one of the ones that I had kickstarted. I was like, no, I'm just going to put this off because I have to get this game off of my backlog once and for all. Now, this is actually true for me for several of the Final Fantasy games. Final Fantasy. What?
I'm just thinking that that actually has. I'm trying to decide if taking that tack has made my backlog grow faster or slower. The times where I'm like, no, I'm not playing this next game until I beat this one, and that happens multiple times. And I wonder if that makes it grow faster or not from the new games that I don't play, because I absolutely have that issue with buying like a sequel, like a series. Like I'm loving the first game, haven't finished it. The next game comes out, and then I buy it because I love the first game, but I haven't finished the first game.
Oh, I know I'm going to play it someday.
Yeah, and so it's like I have like series. Well, like I mean, for me, like Wild Arms, there's 5 of those games, and I still haven't gotten through the second
There's
one.
5 Wild Arms games?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did not know
there's
this.
a huge market for
actually
arms
more
that you
than
find
that.
in the wild.
I mean, if you think about it, the first one was on PS1, so
Yeah, I just
it's
didn't
had
realize.
time to.
I just didn't realize there were 5 of them.
Thing is I actually did get Wild Arms 4 at one point and played a fair amount of the beginning of it and thought it was great, but then I got Wild Arms 2 and I'm like, no, I had set 4 down for a while. I'm like, I need to finish 2 before I go to 3, and then when I got 5, it's like I need to finish 2. Well, I mean, Disgaea is that for me, because those games are so huge that like when Disgaea 4 came out and when 5 came out, I'm like, no, I need to finish 3. I need to finish 3. I need to finish 3. And I did eventually just have to sit down and tell myself, all right, I got the PlayStation 3 away from my kids so I can finish Disgaea 3. And then I actually got a PS TV to play the Vita version and actually finally beat it on that version. But it took me a while to finally finish Disgaea 3 so I could finally move on to Disgaea 4. And I haven't even bought Disgaea 7 yet because I'm still in 4 now. So
Okay, so that's a different tangent than I was expecting, because I kind of want to move back to Final Fantasy. Because
I'll be your Huckleberry there.
Okay, 'cause
I've got a Final Fantasy that's on my backlog.
I'm playing Final Fantasy right now as we're talking. So,
Okay, are we all playing something? Because I saw Splice start a game on Steam, and I'm playing Pokemon.
I think we should be. I feel like it's appropriate. I feel like it'd be
I'm
inappropriate
just
not to
browsing
be.
my Steam library. That's a game unto itself.
I am not playing something, but I was very tempted to start up Persona 4 on my thing, but I've got a mic that picks up everything, so I didn't think I could get away with it.
Yeah, so I'm playing Final Fantasy 14 right now because right now I'm just doing grinding stuff. So
14 is Bro Trip or
14 is MMO.
MMO? Okay, because 15 was Bro Trip.
15 was Bro Trip.
I still haven't finished Wild
but-
Arms
but
2
yeah, so-
as I see it on the
Because
screen.
that's the one that's on my backlog. I bought it
So-
because. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. You go ahead. I'm
So
interrupting.
the thing is, with Final Fantasy, it was like I like a lot of people fell in love with it as I was growing up. I'm like
Mhm.
old school Final Fantasy fan though.
Oh yeah.
Like
Final Fantasy VI was the best Final Fantasy that ever came out.
The
I will
single
fight
digits
everyone
are the
behind
best.
the lunch.
So
I'm
I
very
will say
confused.
6.
I thought they only released 3 back then.
Anyway,
3, 6,
so
whatever.
no, but like I played the original Final Fantasy on NES when it was the only Final Fantasy out there.
Same here.
So that's the kind of Final Fantasy fan I am. And I actually started falling away from the series, starting with 7, which a lot of people say is the best of all time, and I will not agree. I don't think it's a bad game, but Final Fantasy to me was the pixel turn-based stuff before that.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have a problem with 7. For me, it was 8,
Mhm.
where I was kind of like,
But the thing is, so I fell off the series. Like I played 7, didn't beat it till much later. I played 8, still haven't beaten it. I played and beat 9, and I played 10 and got to the final boss and fell off. And then after that, I never I played 11 for just I bought it and played the free month that I had on it, and just it was not for me at all.
yeah.
12 is when I just was like, okay, I think I'm just done with the series. They're not making them for me anymore, and that's fine. It's okay. I just am moving.
Not everything's for us. See, with me,
and so
I'm with you right up until you were. I'm fine with 7. I am not fine with 7.
and that's fair. But the thing is, I was off the series for a while. And then, like a lot of people back in, I think it was 2000, when a lot of people were falling off of World of Warcraft and trying out FF14 as an alternative. I had tried FF14 before and not really gotten into it. And finally, I just I picked it up and started playing with it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to give this, a really good opportunity to win me over. And I played it, and it was fine. And I kept playing it, and I beat the base game, and it was good. And then I got into the first expansion. I was like, okay, this is really good. And then I got into the second expansion, which is actually a lot of people's least favorite. And there's a point where there is a character who is listed as being who his father's name is Kyan, Lord Kyan of Doma. And I was just like, wait a second.
Ooh.
Wait a second. And I
That's
kept
Ranger Danger there.
and I was just like, okay, you're playing on my FF6 love right here. And I went and they just kept talking about this character. And I finally met him. He turned around and Signs theme started playing in the background. And I almost wept. It was just like, they're making it for me again. Like it just suddenly felt like a Final Fantasy game was for me.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, and because I kept playing the game, and beyond that point, the story just gets unreal. Like it really is some of the best storytelling I've read. Jordan will recognize this for the singing endorsement it is. I would put this on a par with Brandon Sanderson.
Wow.
Quite
Like I would absolutely put it on par. Now you have to get deep into the game to get to that point, but because of that,
that's why you try and tell me to play FF14 every time we talk.
But the thing is, because of that, it reignited the Final Fantasy bug in me. I went and I filled in on Steam every single main, numbered game in the series. I bought all of them just to make sure that I have them, and those are high on my backlog list now.
So
because it just reignited my love of the series.
Before we go down this rabbit hole, I want to take a quick tangent that amused me. So a couple months ago, talking to my dad over the phone, and my dad has played a few video games. He got really big into Doom and into Halo of all things, just because of my brother was playing it at the time, and he likes shooters and stuff. And so, but otherwise, gaming, he just doesn't get it. He's quite a bit older than us, and so the stuff he hears is really sporadic. And he's talking. He's like, "Can you explain something to me?" I'm like, "Sure, what?" And he's like, "I heard Aaron talking to her friend, and she said something about Final Fantasy 15." And to which I'm just like, I'm all on board to know where this is going. And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "How can there be 15? It's called Final Fantasy." And I
we've all had
explain-
that conversation.
Yeah, and I just start laughing at him. Just just like, "Oh, I love that you're doing this." But I'm like, do you want me to really blow your mind?" He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Do you want to hear about Final Fantasy 10 too?" And he's like, "What?" Like, every single game isn't a sequel to the next one, actually. They are completely different stories every single time. And I could tell it broke him a little bit.
Oh, well, and then there's also like Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, which is not the same as the game Mystic Quest, which is made by the same developer on a different continent. And then, of course, there's Final Fantasy Legend, which actually goes into, I believe, is that the Mana games?
Saga.
And then Final Fantasy Adventure is the Mana games.
Correct.
Yeah. And no, it gets so convoluted. Don't even get me started on Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, can we not with Kingdom Hearts? But
Oh,
also,
the Kingdom
Squall is
Hearts.
dead. That's the only way 8 makes sense. Squall is dead at the end of the first disc, and the rest of the game is just him just losing his mind.
I have seen that theory, but even that doesn't redeem it, in my opinion.
I mean, I'm not saying that it makes it better. I'm just saying it's the only thing that makes sense. See, my Final Fantasy journey and why 15 is on the backlog is I follow a similar path to Lunarsar and Baggins, where I moved through. I loved Final Fantasy 1. I loved Final Fantasy 2/4. I loved Final Fantasy 3/6. And then they did the ultimate betrayal. They jumped systems to a system I couldn't afford.
That was part of it for me, but it wasn't the main part. For
But
me,
what
they
really-
jumped genres.
That was a part of it for me too. But
Because from 1 through 6, it was a fantasy game with some sci-fi elements. 7
Right.
was a sci-fi game with some fantasy elements.
it was Final.
Correct. This is true.
It was Final Sci-Fi, is what it was. But what really just pushed me over the edge, and just really just villainized 7 in my mind, was Sephiroth. I am a villain snob. And the only thing that Sephiroth had going for him is that he was pretty. And he had graphics on his side.
And he had an enormous sword.
And that is pretty much it, as far as I could tell.
And One Winged Angel is a banging track. I've got to give him that. I cannot...
This is true.
It's a banging track. I won't deny that, but you can't fly with one wing.
I agree.
And Kefka was the superior bad guy. In fact,
okay.
Kefka is the...
Well, yes. I mean, I was going to just bring that up, but ever since FF6, I've referred to the final bosses of maybe half the RPGs I play as Kefka clones.
I mean, they pretty much are.
I've called like Sephiroth was a Kefka clone.
And so
Bad guy in FF9, Kefka clone. Like I have used the phrase Kefka clone to refer to so many bosses since 6, because like Kefka's the pinnacle.
Okay, Kami.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no. Finish your thought, and then I have to say something.
Well, I bring this up because that's the level of betrayal I was dealing with, and then I was like, all right, it's like that girlfriend in high school who you fight and you break up and you fight and you break up. All right, it's fine. Let's get Final Fantasy VIII. Maybe we can get together. At that point, I had a roommate who had a PlayStation, and so let's try Final Fantasy VIII, and it was betrayal all over again. And just at that point, I became a spectator, and I would watch Final Fantasy IX, which looked interesting. I won't lie, and then 10.
Well, 9 was a return to the basics, which was why it was much better.
Right.
And
so
10 was
9 I want to love.
Hi, Mithril.
Somebody.
Also, hello.
Hi, Lithra.
9's on my backlog.
Somebody actually gave me 13 to try and get me back into the system, into Final Fantasy, and that didn't work.
Why 13?
Why?
Why 13?
Because it was the first Final Fantasy that was on an Xbox. I had an Xbox.
Oh,
And that was why. And then I got 15, and I liked 15 for the most part, but then it just fell into
Well,
everything we
13,
talked about.
13 is what really broke Final Fantasy for me. I mean, I don't know why. I bought the
was
whole
so
trilogy,
bad.
but I never even finished the first one.
See, 12 is what broke it for me. I got like an hour into it, and I was just like, this just isn't my game anymore.
I actually really liked the Gambit system. I mean, I program for a living, so that's not that surprising. So I liked it for the programming aspect. The fact that you could program your party members' AI, I think that's fantastic. But I totally get that that's not for everyone.
Guys, I'm going to do something, and I'm going to regret doing it, but...
Oh, no.
With Looney, I've already tried, but Looney and or Kami, y'all really need to try 14. You really do.
I might.
Like, let me know.
Seriously, I might. I've got a few games on my backlog, but I might.
Like,
I've
tried it with 2 other people, and both of them have bounced off. Well,
who would those be?
You're one of them.
Oh wait, crap! That is V.
And you've bounced on and off. You've said that you'll probably go back, but yeah, I don't know how much I believe you.
No, this one I definitely will go back. Now that I'm
just too busy to go back to it.
Man, I just FF13. I just couldn't get into it.
I have honestly considered it. When Splice and you were playing like on stream, I came within a credit card's number of getting a...
Don't even worry about the credit card number. The free trial goes up through the 3rd expansion.
It doesn't let me do the free trial because I did the free trial. Apparently, I did the free trial at some point, like in the past, which I don't remember.
So what you do is you create a new...
probably
happened, you just create a new account.
Yeah.
What probably happened is that if you tried like the version of the free trial that they had when it was free through like Twitch Prime a couple years ago, was before the version of the free trial they have now, but that was like the starter edition or something, which creates you a Square Enix account. And if you have a Square Enix account, you're not allowed to if you have an existing Square Enix account with any version of 14, you're not allowed to access the fully free version, the free trial version.
Yeah.
Right.
So is it a problem if I have a Square Enix account from FF11 days?
No, FF11 is fine. As long as you haven't done the free trial or paid for a full version on FF14.
As long as you own no versions of 14.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
FF11 is the one I have. I don't have a FF14. I've never played that one. Okay.
I didn't... because that's the one that it was really, really bad on launch. And I thought you said you had played that one.
I did play 11.
Oh,
okay.
gosh.
I was
screen,
mixing up.
I hate those treasure chests. In
Why
FF13.
would you do that to your listeners? Why would you subject them to that? That's like...
Because I have no context for what I'm looking at.
That is a war crime in 3 countries.
What just happened? Did I miss something?
He's playing Final Fantasy 13.
A certain game has footage playing on the...
you monster.
Yeah.
You guys were talking about it.
Oh, seeing
I love looking at menus.
Seeing Snow opening a treasure chest just triggered me all over again.
So
I don't want to spare off of anything, but I do have a question to veer the conversation in another direction.
That's fine.
I want to let everyone get their stuff out and just...
I was going to say, how many directions are we going in? I guess the question.
Random. I mean, if we can get a direction that changes what game's playing in the background. Here's one that I opened it once, I played it, and I loved it, and then I never played it a second time, was Muramasa the Demon Blade.
Before we veer, though, Mithril, I believe you would be my ally on this, correct? I'm trying to get them to play FF14.
Ally for what? For 14?
Yes.
Yeah, so my story with 14
you play,
is
right? That's why you're... Yeah.
That's why I'm late. I was in a raid.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, so my story is another friend. I watched him stream it fairly often.
Right?
Romano, yeah.
Romano.
Watch him stream it fairly often, the raid progress.
Here.
Yeah, good luck with that.
One of these days.
It's just, difficult with raids and whatnot being at the same start time and whatnot.
And
But anyway, I was watching him
yeah.
play during the end of not even the end during Stormblood, trying to prog through the Kefka boss fight.
Speaking of, those are things in the game.
Yes, the Stormblood raid series in particular is a lot of bosses from past Final Fantasy games.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of the Stormblood raid series is FF6 specific.
Yeah. So at that point, I had only played Final Fantasies 1 and the DS remake of 3 and hadn't even finished it. So I was not like a super Final Fantasy fan at that point, playing 14. But I was watching, I was up to date a little bit with stuff they were doing, and it was all very interesting to me. And then when the pandemic hit, I had like nothing to do, and I'm like, well, Shadowbringers was on sale for literally like $10, which included all the previous expansions. I'm like, I might as well jump in. I've been watching my friend play then later on, and so I knew I would have at least someone to play with going forward, going through the game. And it's one of those things where it's like, it took me a couple months of playing to get through. At that point, Shadowbringers was the final thing. It was about, I would say, a month per expansion, and this was playing somewhat regularly in the evenings after work and whatnot.
That's fair.
And so, yes, it is a long burn. They shortened it somewhat, at least, since I played. At least the Realm Reborn stuff. And
with the Realm Reborn patches were long. Yeah.
They've since redone all of the early game dungeons to be more streamlined, to be at least the required ones to be more streamlined.
So you're
and
telling
less.
me I'm playing the streamlined stuff?
Yes.
Yes,
you are.
My goodness.
They said roughly 100 quests, I think it was. In Realm Reborn. Most of those 100 quests that they cut were the patch content.
He hasn't even gotten to the patch content yet.
Oh,
you no longer have to sniff a chocobo, I think.
I'm sorry.
Or do you still have to do that?
He's saying you don't have to do
content from that though, or not?
No.
I need explanations now. You don't get to say sniff a chocobo.
There were a lot of filler quests. There were a lot of filler quests that involved doing stuff around certain areas of the game, and like, hey, what's the Warrior of Light gonna do now that first big thing is dealt with the Empire? It's like,
the answer was sniff a chocobo?
Apparently, yes. I don't remember how you got there or how that happened, but apparently chocobo sniffing was
chocobo chafing.
All I know is I did not know that chocobo down was a controlled substance until now.
Oh yeah, no. Some people go hard in chocobo breeding for chocobo racing. It is.
Oh yes, they do.
I'm not a person who's into that community, but some people, like I said, go hard. Anyway, so it's.
I mean, some people use the game as a mahjong simulator.
Oh yeah, no. Apparently mahjong's really popular, and it's one of the better free mahjong, freely accessible for the free trial mahjong playing, like simulators or whatnot with their dome and mahjong. I don't know. It's a lot. There's a lot in the game.
You mentioned
I went through just kind of playing through and expecting to be like, okay, let's just get through this. Let's see. The only MMO I had any real experience with at that point in time was RuneScape. Like, I hadn't played WoW beyond
you're not even a WoW refugee then.
I played WoW like for a day or two in a free trial during Cataclysm, and was really upset that I couldn't play through the story of the post-Warcraft 3 stuff, and so I stopped. And that was my story of playing WoW.
And that's one of my favorite things about FF14 is that everything is still viable.
Yeah, all the story content is there. In fact, you kind of have to play through it, which a lot of people complain about. A lot of people say that's like the, quote, great filter and people bounce off of, and I understand that. But as someone like me who is very much, I want to feel like I have the full experience from start to finish, Final Fantasy XIV is a very refreshing MMO in that sense of, I do feel like I have a full experience with the game, even though I started, 6 years after launch.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Sorry,
So
I
for-
didn't
no,
mean to
well, no,
derail.
so
14.
I want to talk about, because it is part of my backlog.
So I was
Myself.
thinking, I
I have
was
another
thinking
Final
I
Fantasy
had
game in my
done-
backlog we can talk about after, but if we want to do this first, we can.
Well, I was thinking I had done all the, single-digit Final Fantasies, but I guess you mentioned 3. I haven't done the original NES 3 one yet.
Don't do the original NES version.
Well, no, I
remaster.
have. I mean,
Yeah.
just
Pixel
to not
remaster
confuse it with
or-
6. Just to not confuse it with 6. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
I mean, I have the 3D. I have remakes. I'd probably play it on the PSP, honestly.
As someone who's only ever played the 3D remake, and then I got it on my phone when it was still just the 3D remake before Pixel Remaster, that game is hard.
Well, actually,
is.
I could play it on Pixel Remaster as well. I don't know. I could do Pixel Remaster or the 3D on the PSP.
Pixel Remaster is a lot better balanced and a lot more like the original, but with like some quality of life. The 3D version is different
Tough.
in a lot of ways. It is a lot harder.
Well,
Well,
I mean,
that
the
final
thing-
dungeon is insanity.
Well, I mean, Final Fantasy IV 3D was that way too, where they made it
So
needlessly much harder.
basically that sort of thing is what they did with the 3D one as well. So speaking of which, I only beat Cloud of Darkness because I was playing it on a phone, and I realized if I hard closed the application before I died, it would start me right before the battle.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So I ended up having to redo the dungeon, like go leave and grind anyway for a few levels because I was just too weak to survive particle beam, particle beam, particle beam. But yeah. Anyway, Splice, you were gonna say something about.
I was just gonna say, it is on my backlog, and I am the one going through the great filter because it's just not that interesting.
I honestly think that you would enjoy it more if you were streaming it less. At least
I haven't
until you
I
get
haven't
to.
streamed it since I came back.
I didn't think you'd come back.
I mean, I had to create an entirely new account.
I thought you streamed it for a while then.
I just streamed the first one.
Once or
That was it.
twice. Yeah.
I thought that you kind of stopped after that.
Oh no, I played more.
Oh,
Mhm. It's interesting because it's like, okay, like I said, because that type of MMO was still fairly novel to me, because I hadn't, been all wowed out. Yes, I will admit I probably skipped a fair number of not skipped cutscenes, but skimmed dialogue in Realm Reborn and whatnot.
And in Realm
But it was
Reborn, I
not
think that's fair.
driving me, but it was also not driving me crazy to do it. I wasn't. Granted, I'm also not the type of person who sits and constantly complains about the game I'm playing. I just stop playing if I don't like it. So
Yeah, and
so
for
I
me,
was engaged enough to actually play it, but I can definitely see why, particular the early quests and the early levels are not super engaging.
yeah, well, for me, the thing that's helped as far as the second playthrough is I gave myself permission to just not read quest text, and I know that's a heresy.
Mhm.
And it's just one of those things, and I'm never not giving myself that permission.
Yeah,
Well, and-
honestly, whatever helps you get through the game, whatever helps you enjoy the game more is, in my mind, I think a lot of people go way too ballistic when it comes to Final Fantasy XIV in general.
And I'll say, if you ever have questions about lore that you may have missed in that, feel free to talk to me, because I get the way that you can start consume stories.
And also, I will say, except for certain actually, even then, there's not really a lot in Realm Reborn that specifically is needed per se to understand what's going on. You might have a greater appreciation of what's going on if you understand it more, but you're not gonna oh hey, I didn't read the Chocobo sniffing quest. Now I don't know who what the motivation is for the big bad guy going forward for the next 5 expansions. No.
Curse you, Snokobo.
Mm-hmm. You're never
So-
gonna let me live that accidental spoonerism down, are you?
Oh heavens, though, are you kidding? You know who
Heavens,
I am.
word.
But no,
Yeah,
okay. So
exactly.
back to just the general backlog instead of just Final Fantasy.
Mhm.
Yeah, sorry
Uh,
about derailing that.
Oh, I knew it would
Yeah.
happen.
Like I said,
like,
I'm literally
could-
playing it right now.
I could
So-
redirect from Final Fantasy back to other backlogs
Well, so
with.
what I was actually wanting you to do is because I did it with them before you showed up. Can
Mhm.
you open up your Steam library and find us just one game? You look at it and you like, and it can't be part of like a bundle where you're just like, why did I buy this?
Oh, that's okay. So I have one that I know is not part of a bundle, and I know why I bought it, but I have still never actually booted it up. Where is it?
Yeah, because for me it was
Because-
Gary's mod where I would like it was on sale for like $1, and I was like, there might be something weird on it that I want to do, and I went in and I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this.
So let me know if any of you know this Kingdom Come Deliverance. Hey, now's the time to start a new big RPG, because as soon as you do, if you don't feel like you have a lot of time to commit to it, something else is going to come along, either in real life or a new game or something like that, and it just like, you're going to want to play that, and then you're going to leave this RPG half finished, and then you're going to forget everything you did in it and have to start from the beginning. That's been my issue with Divinity Original Sin. That's been my issue with Final Fantasy IX. I got like a decent way through, and then I started getting distracted trying to get chocograms, and really like just walled myself in, and various aspects of the way that game just functions frustrate me.
That's an interesting point that I think is worth talking about, because there have been
Found where Hornet was and got the double jump, and I'm like, I'm so stupid. This was so much easier.
It happens.
Yeah,
Kids-
random Hollow Knight story.
but like that
Then I'm like, okay, grind a little bit. I'll try to fight the super boss. Didn't go well at all. And I'm like, okay, well, I couldn't beat the super boss. I'll just beat Sephiroth. And then it's like, well, I did it stupidly easy. And I'm like, well, this game had absolutely no climax and build up then, because I ruined the curve for myself. Let's not do that again.
You know what else I had a similar experience with, which is frustrating to me because I really enjoyed the game, but it was just when I realized it was a bigger game than I expected, I just suddenly felt burnout, and that was Live Alive or Live Alive or Live Alive, however you want to pronounce it.
Leave a
But
leaf.
because it's this game where there's similar to Octopath Traveler. I think Octopath is kind of a spiritual successor to it, but where there's a bunch of different characters and you play their stories.
Mhm.
But then after it opens up into a bigger story. And it's when I got to that after it part that I was just like, oh, I was thinking this was like a final chapter. Let's come together to, hooray.
Oh,
And
yeah.
instead it's like, oh no, now I'm actually just playing the real game. Like everything I did up to this point was a prologue. And I'm just like, oh wow.